What is the likely result of the just concluded conclave of the global cabal known as Bilderberg? In short, it looks as if the great and the good, the high and the mighty of worldly power, have reached a consensus on a number of key issues. Foremost among these are the US presidential election in November and the rapidly approaching Brexit referendum, coming up on June 23. And what is the Bilderberg consensus on these two issues? Simple: Trump must be stopped, and Hillary elected. The Brexit must be stopped, and the UK kept forever trapped in the evolving EU project. More Bilderberg consensus: flooding the EU with refugee migration must continue. Populist political revolts against the elites in Austria, Hungary, the UK, Italy, France, and elsewhere must be neutralized. The TPP and TIP globalist trade schemes must be formally approved. More bailouts, and bail-ins, of too big to fail banks and corporations must be readied, and much, much more. With the Bilderberg confab hermetically sealed, how can I claim knowledge of the secret consensus? I'll come to that. The 64th meeting of the Bilderberg Group took place June the 9th to the 12th at the luxurious Hotel Taschkenburg Palace, Schön, in Dresden, Germany. The annual conference of world power brokers and kingmakers convened under its trademark secrecy and tight security, and with the usual collusion of the mainstream prostitute press, which pretended not to notice that this notorious high council of politicians, bankers, and industrialists might be plotting anything injurious to the public weal. Bilderberger hands were indispensable in launching the European Coal and Steel Community, ECSC, and have been active up to the present in gradually morphing the ECSC into the EU, and the socialist dictatorship that entity is rapidly becoming. Once obscure politicians, such as Bill Clinton and Tony Blair, are but two of the better-known Poles that have been placed into the highest offices of their nations, following their catwalks before the Bilderberg royals. One of the Bilderbergers' most blatant and notorious grabs for political and financial power, and one that finally forced world attention on their malevolent machinations, was the Mario brothers' coup d'état in Italy in 2011, following that year's BG conference. In that brazen gambit, the BG elites tossed out the elected Italian government of Silvio Berlusconi for their hand-picked Bilderberg, Goldman Sachs banker Mario Monti, while also putting Bilderberg, Goldman Sachs banker Mario Draghi in charge of the European Central Bank. Founded in the Netherlands 1954, at the Hotel de Bilderberg, whence the name, the Bilderberg Group Conference, according to its website, is an annual meeting designed to foster dialogue among select political leaders and experts from industry, finance, academia and the media. All of its meetings, the Bilderberg Group website notes, are held under the Chatham House rule, which refers to the gag rule of Chatham House, the headquarters of the British Royal Institute of International Affairs, RIIA, which together with its American cousin, the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, has been the principal operational center of the movement for world government for the past century. In 1998, British journalist and Bilderberg attendee Will Hutton wrote this in his Observer, UK, column regarding the annual World Economic Forum, WEF, meetings in Davos, Switzerland, along with the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderberg Conference. This is one of the key meetings of the year. No policy is made here, it is all talk, some of it banal and platitudinous. But the consensus established is the backdrop against which policy is made worldwide. The WEF of which he spoke is a much larger confabulation of the rich and famous, a showy assemblage of the kind of folks who hope someday to be invited to that apex of power represented by Bilderberg. If the consensus established at Davos provides the backdrop for world policy, the Bilderberg consensus provides a leading edge that is several times greater in magnitude. And it is an edge that is deliberately leading our planet toward a world government run by an oligarchy, one which would look very much like the Bilderberg elite. The Clinton contingent. Although the daily goings-on of the Bilderberg gathering in Dresden were completely clandestine, We can deduce much from past history, as well as recent statements before and after the conference, along with statements, articles, and studies from globalist organizations, media organs, and think tanks closely allied with the Bilderberg elite. But when it comes to the Clinton versus Trump question, the most telling clue is the who's who of attendees at this most exclusive of invitation-only confabs. Clearly, this was stacked with Hillary for President heavyweights. Leading off the Clinton cheering section at Bilderberg 2016 is former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, the uber eminence grizz of the globalist establishment. Yes, he is a Republican, in name only. Dr. K is, first, last, and always, a committed one-worlder, as his career and membership in key insider organizations, Bilderberg, Trilateral Commission, CFR, Atlantic Council, Aspen Institute, Bohemian Club, attest. However, there are more than ideological affinities and organizational ties that closely bind Henry and Hillary. Oddly enough, and unbeknownst to most of the American public, Bill and Hillary Clinton and Henry and Nancy Kissinger are bosom buddies. These two power couples have long shared their Christmases together at Punta Cana, the luxurious island estate of designer Oscar de la Renta, in the Caribbean. In interviews with NPR and USA Today, Kissinger praised Hillary's stint as Secretary of State and said she would make a good president. Other key Team Hillary players at Bilderberg 2016. Vernon Jordan, a top-level Wall Street/Washington, D.C., insider and fixer. Jordan is best known as the longtime advisor to, and close pal of, Bill Clinton. He is the Bilderberg member who introduced Bill to the power elite at Bilderberg 1991. He is a CFR member, partner at the insider law firm of Akin, Gump, Strauss, and Felt, and senior managing director with the legendary investment firm of Lazard for years and company. He celebrated his 80th birthday last year with a game of golf with two U.S. presidents, Clinton and Obama. Jordan and his wife Ann have not only been major contributors to Hillary Clinton's Senate and presidential races, but, according to the Washington Post, the Jordans belong to a relatively small list of 146 high-end donors that have contributed sizable donations to all 6 of the Clintons' federal races. Eric Schmidt, the former chairman of Google and current chairman of its new parent company, Alphabet Incorporated, Schmidt, CFR, is ranked by Forbes as the 100th richest person in the world. However, far more important than his personal direct cash contributions to Hillary Clinton's campaign are the assistance he has provided through his stealth organization, the groundwork, and the pro-Hillary bias allegedly built into Google search operations, for which he is now being roundly criticized. Moreover, reportedly many high-level Google employees who rotated in and out of the Obama administration and the Clinton State Department are now actively engaged in supporting Clinton's White House bid, both financially and technologically. Henry and Marie Josie Kravis, both members of this billionaire power couple, are members of the CFR and Bilderberg regulars. Mr. Kravis is a founder of Kohlberg Kravis Roberts, KKR, the mammoth investment firm usually associated with donations to GOP candidates and the Republican Party. Kravis has been a big Bush family donor. However, KKR is one of the big Wall Street behemoths that shelled out the big bucks, reportedly $250,000, for a speech by Hillary, and Kravis has been a major investor in the shady enterprise known as Laureate International Universities, through which Bill and Hillary Clinton have reaped millions of dollars. This developing scandal is likely to dwarf the alleged scandal of Trump University, which Hillary has attempted to exploit for political gain. General David Petraeus, this globalist servitor, another Republican CFR member, used his military stature and CIA directorship to provide plausible justification for the unconstitutional, undeclared, and unjust wars of the New World Order. He has no great wealth of his own, but has been rewarded by fellow CFR Bilderberger Henry Kravis, who has made him head of the new KKR Global Institute. In the sympathetic biography HRC, State Secrets and the Rebirth of Hillary Clinton, by Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes, Petraeus says Hillary would be a tremendous president. One of the more amusing vignettes of this year's Bilderberg conference is the video news footage of InfoWars reporter Rob Drew chasing Petraeus, with camera rolling, and attempting to ask him about Hillary's email scandal as the general goes on a jog outside the Bilderberg hotel venue. Roger C. Altman, a longtime friend and advisor of the Clintons, Altman, CFR, and an influential steering committee member of Bilderberg, served as Deputy Secretary of the Treasury in Bill Clinton's first administration, until the Whitewater investigation caused his resignation. He is founder and executive chairman of Evercore Partners, a multi-billion-dollar investment firm that has contributed $250,000 to Priorities USA, a Hillary Clinton super PAC. Klaus Kleinfeld, the chairman and CEO of Alcoa and the former president and CEO of German conglomerate Siemens, Kleinfeld has been a big supporter of President Obama and the Clintons. And he and the companies he has headed have been richly rewarded. Alcoa received hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer-subsidized loans from the Obama Energy Department. The Alcoa corporate website features a page that glowingly touts the company's ties to the Clinton Global Initiative, CGI, and includes a prominent appearance by Kleinfeld at a major CGI event. Senator Lindsey Graham, RSC, on May 7, The Washington Post ran an article entitled "The 10 Republicans Who Hate Donald Trump the Most." No surprise, they named Graham as number one among the biggest Trump haters, ahead of even Bill Kristol, Mitt Romney, and the Bush family. His continuing vocal attacks on Trump undoubtedly contributed to his invitation to the Bilderberg conclave, along with his reliable pro-big government, internationalist, pro-intervention, pro-war everywhere voting record. There are many more, but that gives you the flavor. The only pro-Trump Bilderberger I could find is PayPal co-founder and Facebook and Palantir investor Peter Thiel. The billionaire libertarian and legendary Silicon Valley tech wizard is a maverick with an ambiguous political and sexual orientation. Recently he was revealed as the moneybags who financed Hulk Hogan's invasion of privacy lawsuit against Gawker Media that has resulted in a $140 million judgment against the website. Thiel, a very intelligent man, made a most confusing and incoherent statement defending Bilderberg's secrecy during an InfoWars on the Street video interview in Dresden, see here. Incredibly, Thiel argues that the desire of citizens and alternative media to know what public officials and powerful private interests are doing behind closed doors at Bilderberg is somehow equivalent to what the brutal Stasi, the East German KGB, was doing when it invasively monitored private citizens in communist Germany. Nevertheless, this one muddled, dubiously pro-Trump attendee was definitely an outlier amidst the chorus of pro-Clinton, anti-Trump moguls and political heavy hitters. Rockefeller missing. Missing from this year's confab was the 101-year-old billionaire banker David Rockefeller, who has been a top fixture at Bilderberg since its earliest years, as well as past chairman of the CFR, and founder, chairman of the powerful Trilateral Commission. At a previous BG conference in Germany, Rockefeller spilled the beans in a tender bouquet to his co-conspirators in the media. "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years, he told the 1991 attendees. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during these years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government which will never again know war but only peace and prosperity for the whole of humanity." In 2000, veteran Bilderberg member Dennis Healey, the former British Labour Party leader and former Chancellor of the Exchequer, provided another public confirmation of Rockefeller's private quip. "To say we were striving for a one-world government is exaggerated. But not wholly unfair, Healy told The Guardian. Those of us in Bilderberg felt that a single community throughout the world would be a good thing. In 2002, Rockefeller expounded further in his autobiographical memoirs. Describing himself as a proud internationalist who is working for one world, he labeled as ideological extremists those critics who believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure, one world, if you will. But Rockefeller went on to say, if that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it. The problem is the peace and prosperity Rockefeller and his Bilderberg comrades claim they are planning for the planet requires that they have unimpeded, unchecked, plenary power. And, well, a few of us lesser beings are not so sure that's such a grand idea. The Bilderbergers were a prime moving force behind the launching of the European Union, and they have guided each step of its development toward a tyrannical superstate. That's not turning out so well, for freedom-minded folks, that is. Which is why the British are stampeding to the Brexit, and all across Europe, people are rebelling against the EU-imposed migration, regulation, and taxation policies. Undoubtedly, these matters were of great concern at Bilderberg 2016, as the group's sparse press release listed Europe, migration, growth, reform, vision, unity among its key topics for discussion. With hardcore one-worlders such as Henry Kissinger, IMF Director Christine Lagarde, former EU Commission President José Manuel Barroso, Carnegie Endowment President William J. Burns, and Google, Alphabet Chief Eric Schmidt as a representative sampling, it's not out of place to surmise that the Bilderberg confreres discussed the means at their disposal to thwart a British vote to exit their prized EU project. And they do have considerable, frightful means at their disposal. As we have noted in previous reports, many of these internationalists have already publicly exploited their political offices and media empires in extreme efforts to stop the surging British support for the Brexit referendum, see here and here. These types of efforts will intensify and escalate in the coming days leading up to the Brexit vote and in the coming weeks and months, as the November Trump-Clinton matchup draws nearer. They're going to get very dirty, very ugly,